He walked into my engagement party with flowers and tears in his eyes, begging me to take him back. My fiancé stood right next to me. My family was watching. And all I could think was, "You're 7 years too late." He dropped to his knees in front of everyone, saying he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. That he'd been young and stupid. That he thought I'd always be there waiting. The room went silent. People had their phones out recording. And I looked down at him, this man who'd shattered me and said 5 words I dreamed of saying for years. "I don't even know you. Let me take you back to the beginning. Because you need to understand what he destroyed and how long I waited like an idiot for him to come back." His name was Ryan. We met when I was 19, freshman in college. He was everything I thought I wanted. Tall, funny, ambitious, the kind of guy who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We fell hard and fast. Within 3 months, we were inseparable. I loved him in that stupid, reckless way you love someone when you're young and don't know any better. We dated for 6 years. 6 years of building a life together. We moved in together after graduation. Split rent on a tiny apartment. I worked as a receptionist making $32,000 a year. He was in sales, making about the same. We were broke but happy. We talked about marriage, about kids, about growing old together. I picked out my dream dress. He knew it. I'd shown him pictures. Told him I didn't need anything fancy, just him and a promise. For my 25th birthday, he took me to our favorite restaurant. The same place we had our first date. I thought this was it. I wore a nice dress. Did my makeup. My heart was pounding the entire drive. We ordered. We ate. We talked. And then the check came. No proposal. I tried not to look disappointed. Told myself I was being ridiculous. That marriage was just a piece of paper anyway. But it hurt. A week later, I brought it up. Asked him where he saw us going. He said he loved me. Said he wanted forever with me. But he wasn't ready yet. Wanted to get his career more stable first. Wanted to save more money. I understood. I waited. Another year passed. I was 26. Still waiting. My friends were getting engaged, getting married, starting families. And I was still in that tiny apartment, still splitting bills, still hearing "not yet" every time I brought up our future. I started planning anyway. Secretly, I had a Pinterest board. Had venues saved. Had a guest list in my head. I was ready. He wasn't. On our 7th anniversary, we went to dinner again. Different restaurant this time. But nice. I didn't expect a proposal. Didn't even hope for one anymore. We were eating dessert when he said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. He said he'd been thinking a lot. About us. About his life. About where he was heading. He said he loved me, but he wasn't sure he was in love with me anymore. That he felt like we'd grown into different people. That maybe we wanted different things. I asked him if there was someone else. He said no. That wasn't it. He just needed space to figure himself out. I begged. I'm not proud of it, but I did. I asked him what I could change, what I'd done wrong, how I could fix it. He just kept saying it wasn't about me. That he needed to find himself. I asked him if this was permanent, if we were done. He said he didn't know. That he just needed time. Like an idiot, I heard hope in that. He moved out the next week, took his stuff while I was at work. Left his key on the counter with a note that said, "I'm sorry. I do love you." I cried for 3 days straight. Called in sick to work. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My friends came over, brought wine, told me he was an idiot. But all I could think was that I'd wasted 7 years. 7 years of my life on someone who didn't want me. But here's the pathetic part. I waited. I actually waited for him to come back. I didn't date anyone, didn't even try. I worked, went home, and existed. I kept thinking he'd wake up, realize what he'd lost, come back and apologize. 6 months went by. Nothing. I saw on social media that he'd moved to a different city. New job, new apartment, new life, no mention of me. I finally started trying to move on, went on a few dates. They were fine, nothing special. I compared everyone to Ryan, which was stupid because Ryan had left me. But I couldn't help it. A year after the breakup, I saw he was in a relationship. Her name was Jessica. She was beautiful, successful, worked in marketing. They looked happy in every photo. I cried in my car for an hour that day. Another year passed. I was 28. Still single. Still comparing everyone to a ghost. My mom told me I needed to let go. That I was wasting my youth on someone who'd moved on. She was right. But I couldn't. Then I met Daniel. It was at a work conference. He was a project manager from another company. Smart, kind, stable. Everything Ryan wasn't. We exchanged numbers. Started talking. He asked me to dinner. I said yes. Daniel was patient. He knew I'd been hurt. Didn't push, didn't rush. Just showed up consistently, which was something I'd never experienced. No games. No, maybe someday. Just a man who knew what he wanted and wasn't afraid to say it. We dated for 2 years. Real dating, meeting families. Traveling together. Building an actual partnership. He proposed on a beach in California. Got down on one knee with a ring he'd spent months picking out. Asked me to marry him in front of the sunset. I said yes. And I meant it. I loved Daniel. Not in the desperate, all-consuming way I'd loved Ryan. But in a steady, secure, this person makes my life better way. Which, it turns out, is so much more valuable. We set a date. Sent save the dates. I posted about it on social media because I was happy and wanted to share it. That's when Ryan called. I hadn't heard his voice in 4 years. He said he'd seen my post. Said he needed to talk to me, that it was important. I told him there was nothing to talk about. He begged. Said it would just take 10 minutes. That he owed me closure. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee. Public place, neutral ground. He showed up looking older, tired. Sat down across from me and said, I made a mistake. I didn't say anything. He continued. Said he'd spent the last 4 years trying to find what we had with other people. That he'd realized too late that I was the one. That Jessica hadn't worked out. That no one compared to me. That he wanted me back. I stared at him, this man who'd broken me. Who'd left me waiting for years while he found himself. Who was now sitting here asking me to throw away my future because he'd finally figured out what I'd known all along. I asked him why now. He said because he'd finally grown up. Finally understood what love meant. I laughed. Actually laughed. Told him love isn't something you figure out after the person's gone. That he'd had 7 years to choose me and he didn't. That I'd waited like a fool for 2 years hoping he'd come back. That I'd wasted my 20s on someone who saw me as an option, not a priority. He tried to argue. Said people make mistakes. That everyone deserves a second chance. I told him he'd had his chance. 7 years of chances, and now it was too late. He left angry. Said I'd regret this. That Daniel would never love me the way he did. I told him he was right. Daniel would love me better. I thought that was the end of it. Then came my engagement party. My parents threw it at a nice venue. Friends, family, coworkers, everyone I loved in one room. Daniel and I were making the rounds, thanking people for coming when I saw him. Ryan. Walking through the door. Uninvited. Holding a bouquet of roses. My mom saw him first. Her face went pale. She tried to intercept him but he pushed past. Walked right up to me and Daniel. Started his speech. About how he'd made a terrible mistake. How he'd let the love of his life go. How he'd been immature and stupid but he'd changed. He got down on his knees. People were gasping. Filming. My aunt was crying, though I'm not sure she understood what was happening. Daniel looked at me. Calm. Waiting for my lead. And I realized something. Ryan thought this was romantic. Thought the grand gesture would work. Thought I'd been sitting around for 4 years just waiting for him to decide I was worth it. He thought I was still that 25-year-old girl who begged him not to leave, but I wasn't her anymore. I looked down at him and said, I don't even know you. He blinked. Continued. The man I loved would never have left me waiting for 7 years. Would never have walked away when I needed him most. Would never show up at my engagement party and try to ruin the happiest day of my life. I don't know who you are, but you're not the person I loved. And honestly, I don't think that person ever existed. His face crumbled. He tried to speak. I cut him off. I spent 2 years waiting for you to come back. 2 years of my life I'll never get back. And you know what I learned? That someone who makes you wait doesn't love you. They love the idea of you being there whenever they're ready. Well, I'm not waiting anymore. I found someone who didn't need years to figure out I was worth it. So please leave. Security escorted him out. The party continued. People came up to me all night telling me I'd handled it perfectly. Daniel held my hand the entire time. Never doubted me. Never questioned. Just stood by me. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. It was perfect. Ryan tried to reach out twice more. I blocked him. Last I heard, he's still single. Still looking for what he lost. And I'm building a life with someone who chose me the first time. Not after I moved on. Not after someone else wanted me. But because he saw my worth immediately and never let me question it. People romanticize the one who got away. But sometimes, the one who got away is just the one who taught you what you deserve. And what you deserve is someone who doesn't make you wait. If this story hit home, smash that like button and subscribe for more real confessions about love, loss, and learning your worth. Thanks for sharing this moment with me.